And most people do not fail because they dream too small. They fail because they start too big. They imagine the new version of themselves with full energy. Waking up early, exercising daily, writing every morning, reading every night, eating clean, staying disciplined, and finally becoming that focused, impressive person they always wanted to be. Then real life arrives. The alarm feels too early. The workout feels too long. The blank page feels too intimidating. The diet feels too strict. The big goal that felt inspiring yesterday suddenly feels heavy today. And slowly, the plan collapses. Not because you are weak, not because you are lazy, not because you are broken, but because your brain is extremely good at resisting things that feel large, painful, or uncertain. Stephen Guise's Mini Habits offers a beautifully simple alternative. Stop trying to force giant change through motivation. Instead, make the action so small that your brain has almost no reason to resist it. One push-up, one paragraph, one page, 1 minute, one tiny action, repeated every day. That may sound almost ridiculous, but that is exactly why it works. Because the goal is not to impress yourself on day one. The goal is to become the kind of person who starts. The one push-up that changed everything. The story behind Mini Habits begins with something almost laughably small. One push-up. Stephen Guise wanted to exercise consistently, but like many people, he struggled to turn that desire into action. He knew what he wanted. He knew why it mattered. He had the classic self-improvement ingredients: intention, frustration, and a vague hope that tomorrow would be different. But when he tried to start with a proper workout, his mind resisted. A full workout felt too hard, too long, too far away from his current identity. It did not feel like a first step. It felt like a mountain. So he asked himself a strange question. What if I only do one push-up? At first, the idea seemed almost useless. One push-up could not possibly transform his body. One push-up would not burn many calories. One push-up would not make him look fit. But that was the genius of it. One push-up was too small to fear, so he got on the floor and did one. Then something interesting happened. Once he was already down there, doing a few more did not feel so hard. Then he tried one pull-up, then another small movement. Before he knew it, he had completed a short workout. The breakthrough was not physical. It was psychological. The one push-up bypassed resistance. It got him started. And once he started, momentum did the rest. That tiny action became the foundation for a daily exercise habit, eventually leading him to the gym and into a more consistent fitness routine. This is the core lesson of the book. Big change often begins when the first step becomes too easy to refuse. What is a mini habit? A mini habit is a very small positive behavior that you commit to doing every day, not occasionally, not only when you feel inspired, every day. But the action must be extremely small. If your goal is to exercise, your mini habit might be one push-up. If your goal is to write, it might be 50 words. If your goal is to read more, it might be 1 page. If your goal is to meditate, it might be 1 minute. If your goal is to clean your home, it might be putting away 1 item. The action is intentionally tiny because the real target is not performance. The real target is consistency. Most people design habits around their ideal energy level. Mini habits are designed around your worst day. That is why they work. On a great day, you may do more than the minimum. You may write 1,000 words, exercise for 30 minutes, or read 20 pages. But on a bad day, you can still do the mini version. And that matters more than most people realize, because every time you complete the habit, you reinforce the identity. I am the kind of person who shows up. That identity is the seed of long-term change. Why big goals often fail. Big goals feel exciting when we imagine them. The problem is that excitement is not the same as execution. A goal like work out for 1 hour every day sounds motivating when you are sitting comfortably, planning your future life. But when the actual moment arrives, your brain calculates the cost. 1 hour? Sweat? Discomfort? Changing clothes? Finding energy? Repeating this forever? Suddenly, the goal feels like a threat. This is why many people start strong and disappear quickly. They depend on motivation, and motivation is unstable. Motivation rises and falls depending on mood, sleep, stress, environment, confidence, and even what happened earlier in the day. Many habits remove this weakness by lowering the activation energy. Instead of asking your brain to climb a mountain, you ask it to step over a pebble. And once you are moving, the task often becomes easier than expected. The hardest part of most habits is not continuing, it is starting. Many habits are designed to make starting nearly automatic. The power of too small to fail. The phrase too small to fail captures the magic of this system. A mini habit should feel almost silly. If you look at your habit and think, that's too easy, you are probably doing it right. This is difficult for ambitious people to accept. We want our plans to look impressive. We want to feel like serious people doing serious things. We want the habit to match the size of our dreams. But the size of the daily action is not the same as the size of the final result. A tiny action repeated consistently can become powerful because it creates a positive feedback loop. You do the small habit, you feel successful, your resistance drops, your confidence increases. You often do more. You come back the next day. Over time, your brain stops seeing the behavior as a battle and starts seeing it as normal. And normal is where habits live. The goal is not to force yourself forever. The goal is to make the behavior feel natural. Motivation is unreliable. Willpower needs help. One of the most practical parts of mini habits is Guise's distinction between motivation and willpower. Most self-help advice tells people to get motivated. Watch an inspiring video. Visualize success. Pump yourself up. Remember your dream. Feel the fire. This can work for a moment, but it is not dependable. You cannot build your life on a feeling that may or may not show up tomorrow. Willpower is more reliable than motivation, but it also has limits. When you are tired, stressed, hungry, overwhelmed, or facing something that feels difficult, willpower gets drained. Guise explains that many habits work because they cooperate with willpower instead of exhausting it. A full workout may require a lot of willpower. One push-up requires almost none. Writing 2,000 words may feel intimidating. Writing 50 words feels manageable. Reading an entire chapter may feel like effort. Reading one page feels easy. Many habits reduce the mental cost of action. They lower the effort. They lower the perceived difficulty. They reduce negative emotions. They make fatigue less relevant. They conserve energy. In other words, many habits make willpower's job ridiculously easy. And when the task feels easy, your brain is much less likely to rebel. The real goal is not the minimum. A common misunderstanding is that many habits are about doing tiny things forever. They are not. The minimum is not the ceiling. It is the floor. The mini habit gives you permission to start small, but once you begin, you are free to continue. If your habit is one push-up, you can do 10. If your habit is 50 words, you can write 1,000. If your habit is one page, you can read a chapter. But here is the important rule. Extra effort is a bonus, not a requirement. This protects the habit from becoming mentally heavy. The moment you raise the minimum too quickly, you wake up resistance again. Your brain starts saying, now this is hard. Now this takes time. Now I might fail. That is why Guise recommends keeping the official requirement small, even when you regularly exceed it. Let yourself overachieve naturally, but do not turn overachievement into the new expectation too soon. Consistency is the foundation. Intensity can come later. How to build your own mini habits. The book offers a practical process for creating mini habits. The system is simple, but the simplicity is the point. 1. Choose the habit you actually want. Start by listing the habits you wish you had. Exercise, writing, reading, meditation, learning, cleaning, stretching, practicing a skill. Then choose 1 to 3 habits to begin with. Do not overload yourself. The whole point is to reduce friction. Ask yourself, what behavior, if repeated daily, would quietly improve my life? Then shrink it. Make it smaller than small. Exercise becomes 1 push-up. Writing becomes 50 words. Reading becomes 1 page. Meditation becomes 1 breath or 1 minute. The habit should be so easy that skipping it feels almost absurd. 2. Use the why drill. A mini habit works better when it is connected to something meaningful. So ask yourself why you want this habit. Then ask why again and again. For example, I want to exercise. Why? To have more energy. Why? So I can feel better during the day. Why? So I can show up with more confidence and health for the people and work I care about. Now the habit is no longer just exercise. It is connected to identity, energy, and the kind of life you want. This matters because habits that come from internal values are stronger than habits copied from other people. Do not build a habit just because the internet says successful people do it. Build one because it genuinely fits the person you want to become. 3. Decide your habit cue. A habit needs a trigger. Guise suggests using either a time-based cue or an activity-based cue. A time-based cue means you do the habit at a certain time. For example, I will read 1 page at 9 p.m. An activity-based cue means you attach the habit to something you already do. For example, after brushing my teeth, I will do 1 push-up. After making coffee, I will write 50 words. After lunch, I will take 1 mindful breath. The cue matters because it reduces decision-making. You do not want to ask, should I do it now? You want the moment to tell you what happens next. 4. Reward yourself. Rewards help your brain remember that the habit is positive. The reward does not need to be big. It can be a checkmark on a calendar, a small celebration, a few minutes of something enjoyable, or simply saying, "Done, I kept the promise." This may seem childish, but the brain loves signs of progress. A visible streak can become surprisingly motivating. And unlike motivation that comes before action, this kind of motivation comes after action. That is much more reliable. Action creates success. Success creates confidence. Confidence makes the next action easier. 5. Track everything. Write it down. Use a notebook, calendar, habit tracker, spreadsheet, or simple checklist. Tracking makes the habit visible, and visible progress gives the brain evidence that change is happening. This is important because small actions are easy to dismiss. 1 page does not feel like much. 1 push-up does not feel heroic. 50 words may not feel like progress, but a month of check marks tells a different story. It says, I am becoming consistent. That is powerful. 6. Think smaller when you struggle. If you fail to do your mini habit, do not respond by trying harder. Respond by making it smaller. This is one of the most important lessons in the book. Most people fail and then punish themselves with bigger promises. I missed today, so tomorrow I'll do twice as much. That usually creates more pressure and more failure. Mini habits take the opposite approach. If 1 push-up feels too hard, get into push-up position. If 50 words feels too hard, write 1 sentence. If 1 page feels too hard, read 1 paragraph. The question is not, how do I become more intense? The question is, how do I make starting easier? Because once you protect the starting ritual, the habit stays alive. 7. Keep expectations low even when you improve. This is the part that ambitious people resist most. After a few good days, you may want to increase the requirement. 1 push-up becomes 10. 50 words becomes 500. 1 page becomes 20. But Guise warns against rushing this. The power of the mini habit is that it stays non-threatening. The small requirement keeps you consistent on bad days, busy days, tired days, and emotionally messy days. You can always do more. But the official minimum should remain easy enough that you never fear it. This is how the habit becomes part of your identity instead of another failed self-improvement project. 8. Watch for the habit becoming automatic. Over time, the behavior will begin to feel normal. You will stop negotiating with yourself. You will stop needing hype. You will stop treating the action as a dramatic event. It will become boring in the best possible way. That is a sign the habit is taking root. When a behavior becomes easy, repeated, and emotionally neutral, it is no longer something you force. It is just something you do. And that is the quiet victory of mini habits. Why mini habits are so emotionally powerful. The deeper beauty of this book is not just productivity, it is self-trust. Many people have broken promises to themselves for years. They promised to exercise and stopped. Promised to write and stopped. Promised to read and stopped. promised to change and stopped. After enough failed promises, you stop believing yourself. Many habits rebuild that trust slowly. Every tiny action says, I can keep a promise. I can show up. I can start. I am not stuck. This may sound small, but it can change how you see yourself. Because confidence is not built by imagining a better identity. Confidence is built by collecting evidence. Many habits give you daily evidence. Small, humble, repeatable evidence. And over time, that evidence becomes identity. The Lazy Capybara way to apply this today. Here is the simplest way to start. Choose one area of your life that matters. Then create a habit so small that your tired, busy, distracted self can still do it. Not your ideal self, your real self. The one who has bad days. The one who gets overwhelmed. The one who sometimes wants to disappear under a blanket like a sleepy capybara. Make the habit friendly to that version of you. Try this. For fitness, do 1 push-up. For writing, write 50 words. For reading, read 1 page. For mindfulness, take 1 slow breath. For cleaning, put away 1 item. For learning, study 1 flashcard. For relationships, send 1 kind message. Then repeat it tomorrow. Do not worry about becoming impressive. Become consistent. Impressive can come later. Final thoughts. Small is not weak. Small is how you begin. Many Habits is one of those books that sounds almost too simple, until you realize that simplicity is exactly what most people need. We do not need another complicated system that works only when life is perfect. We need a system that works when we are tired, when motivation is gone, when the day is messy, when the goal feels far away, when we do not feel like becoming our best self today. Stephen Guise's message is gentle but powerful. Start smaller. Make it easy. Repeat daily. Let success build momentum. Let momentum build identity. Let identity build the life you wanted. The person you want to become is not created in one dramatic transformation scene. That person is built quietly, through tiny actions that are easy to overlook but hard to defeat. 1 push-up, 1 page, 1 sentence, 1 minute. 1 small promise kept. So today, do not ask, how can I change my whole life? Ask, what is the smallest positive action I can take right now? Then do that. And tomorrow, do it again. That is how small habits become big change. If this summary helped you rethink motivation and discipline, save it, share it with someone who keeps waiting for the perfect moment, and subscribe to the Lazy Capybaras for more calm, practical book summaries that help you build a better life. 1 tiny step at a time.